Just to live happily for the rest of my life.
Be away from the office.
To share my life and my happiness with someone else and partake in their happiness.
Right now I'm in 2 bands, and I'm ranching right now as well.
Me and him have been discussing opening up our own longboarding shop. Yeah, doing custom board work, paint jobs, and stuff like that.
Helping people, and I someday hope to open some sort of shelter for human trafficking victims.
I want to have a band that's big on a big enough platform that we can share our message with the younger generations, or with anyone really, but just about living life to a higher standard.
Yes.
Hugely, yeah. We longboard almost every day we can.
Yeah, I'm living most of them and working towards others as well, yeah.
It's a challenge at times. However, am I? Yeah.
I sort of am, and I'm sort of not. I'm going to school and getting a degree in psychology and sociology, which will hopefully help with that. But at the same time, I know I could probably be doing more.
I'd say a big thing is money.
Finances.
Financial restraints. It's really expensive to go to school, and it's really expensive to travel.
Weather. This Calgary weather can ruin it.
Selfishness, ego, pride, those things like that, putting yourself first instead of putting others first.
Me, if I don't believe that I can accomplish it, I will kind of hold myself to accomplish the dream that I want to reach.
Accidents. He's been hit by a car already. I've almost been hit by cars. So...
It's commitment from others. Being in a band, you have like 4 people that you need all the day off to record or to write or to practice or whatever. Everyone has to be motivated.
Having money would be really cool. A better paying job.
Studying business would be a good start to opening a company.
I'm looking at all the possible options and frankly seeking out advice from other people.
I guess just trying to be more effective, more confident myself, so I guess try to become more positive.
I don't know, I'm doing everything I can to live my dream right now, so... Never give up. Just keep going. Keep a calm head and make sure you're focused on what you're wanting, and eventually it'll come to you.
Don't let people get you down. Push forward and really try.
Follow what your heart says.
Just work hard and focus, and you'll get there. Set goals for yourself.
Life will put you down, but it doesn't matter what. You can always get back up.
Never give up, and to just keep striving towards it, and you'll get there one day.
Well, wasn't that awesome? Yeah, just some of the things people are saying when it comes to the whole area of dreams. And, of course, the reason why we showed that this morning is that's what we've been talking about. Matter of fact, we've been in a series we call Dream Up, and that has to do with unlocking the secrets of living your dream. And, this last month, that's exactly what we've been doing, where we've been at. We began this series by talking about how to discover and unpackage your dream a little bit more. That's where we began, and then we moved into the whole area of fear. And you can't have a dream without experiencing some fear. And we looked at how our fears oftentimes cocoon us, they barricade us in our comfort zone, keep us from living our dreams. From there, we talked about some of the critics who might come and try and stop us from living our dreams. And then those of you who were with us last Sunday, you know that we talked about the whole area of doubt when it comes to dream living. And that the bigger your dreams are, the heavier the doubt becomes. And so how to deal with doubts when it comes to this whole area of pursuing our dream. And so that's where we've been so far in this series. What I'd like to do this morning is I want to wrap the series up by sharing the final and 5th message in it. And of course, that is a message we call Celebrating My Success. And how many of you know God does have some success for all of us? Do you believe that this morning? And that we can come to a place where we actually are beginning to feel like, hey, I am living my dream. And so that's what we're going to look at this morning. Every week what we've done, and many of you have been part of this, is we've had an online question that we put on our website. We call it a dream poll. And it has to do with the message that's going to be shared the Sunday that's coming up. And so the question that we had this week was this one right here. I would celebrate my successes more if. That was the question. And many of you took part in that question. We had over 50 people answer it. And I found it quite interesting. This is the result that we had for that question there. I would celebrate my success more. 40% of you said if I really felt like I deserved it, which is interesting. And that's something you might want to pursue a little bit. Because if God made you, and God doesn't make junk, and God gave you a dream, then why would we ever think that we wouldn't deserve the dream? But that was the first one, and I appreciate that. The second one, the largest one, was 23%. I would celebrate my success more if I wasn't so focused on my next goal. Okay, and so that becomes an issue. The next biggest area was 15%, and that was another. And there were a variety of different answers under the other category. And then the next chunk was 11% said I would celebrate my successes more if I wasn't so busy. How many can say amen to that? Right? We'd celebrate more if we weren't so busy. And then the last one was 11% as well, and that was if I didn't always extend the finish line. And so that's for those of us who we are just goal-orientated, so much so that we just keep putting the finish line in front. We never reach a goal, so we never can celebrate. We never have a party, and we never just sort of rest and say, wow, what an achievement. And so I want to appreciate all of you for participating in our poll through this series all the way along. It has helped us as we've presented the series to get an idea of where you are at and where people are at when it comes to living their dreams. But, today, as I mentioned, we're going to be wrapping up this series, and we're going to do it in a slightly different way. How many like variety? Okay, good. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to do a little bit different this morning. Rather than me teaching on the whole area of celebrating my success, I thought it would be neat if we could do an interview of someone who has experienced some of that in their lives. And so this morning we're going to have just that. We have a person who has experienced some of what we've been talking about, and that is stepping out and living our dreams. This is a person who was born to missionary parents, who lived in India. His parents went to India as leaders, to train leaders. And then after being in India for a while, he completed his bachelor's degree. And then he moved to Jerusalem, where he earned a master's in history and geography of ancient Israel. And then now for the past 22 years, he has been honing his leadership skills in pastoral ministry and has also earned his doctorate of ministry in leadership and in preaching. From that, he has springboarded a brand new area called Crest Leadership, and he's going to be talking about that in a minute. But why don't you give Dr. Dan Reinhardt a big hand as he comes and shares. Here we go. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. And so we just want to talk a little bit. The first time I met Dan was at what is called a Crest Leadership course. And the reason why we met is because I signed up for the course. And that's not just a weekend course. That's not just a week course. It's actually a 2-year leadership course that I've been involved in. I'm halfway through. If I finish my homework for the next encounter. But yeah, it's been about a year that I've been with Crest. And so I thought it would be wonderful if we could sit and chat about this whole area of dreaming. because one of the components in the CREST course, one whole weekend actually, was on this topic. And so before we begin getting into the meat of some things, why don't you just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what one of your greatest passions in life is.
Well, as you well described in brief form, I have been trained and been in ministry for the last 22 years in Medicine Hat, and the last 10 doing what's called CREST now. And I find that one theme that keeps going through my whole life is that I love helping people. And I also like to research, and that's shown up in a teaching model. So I tend to be a teacher type, and here I am doing the CREST leadership program, which is helping people and teaching them about the life stages and how to flourish and do your dream. Okay. So that's really what kind of defines my life so far.
Okay, and so, big dream, helping people, how that dream is played out, that's where, all of us need to get the nuts and bolts of what it means to live our dreams. So one thing I wanted to ask you, Dan, is what is one dream you've had in your life, even from an early age?
Well, it seems like some people know what they're going to do from this up. Some little girl says, I'm going to be a nurse. And they just go for it, and they're a nurse. And the other guy says, I'm going to be a fireman. And they actually become a fireman. I didn't have that. I just kind of grew up in a good Christian home, and I really did, though, want to know God's direction for my life. And I remember as a teenager especially praying that prayer, Lord, just tell me your will for my life. What should I do? And I do believe that is the starting point. If we will honestly pray that, God will direct your path. And that's how it was for me. My path just kind of started out of that prayer. And then one day I was praying about this, and I remember I just sensed a clarity came to me that God was saying, go to Bible school. Like, go do a year of Bible school. And so I did. I went to Bible school to kind of clarify where God would want me to go, and that's why I went, was to find that out. And I found that from there was just the next steps were given.
Okay, and so, you feel sort of an inkling, a leaning. It's not like you get an angelic visitation or the sky opens up saying, this is your dream.
No, I didn't get that.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty similar to many of us. It's just an inkling and you follow it. And so as you followed that inkling, it took you in Bible school, and then where did you go from there?
Well, I finished up at the Bible school, and one of the major prayers I had at Bible school was, Lord, I really would like to be married. I'd like to do life with somebody. And God graciously answered that, and He gave me a beautiful wife named Anne, and we began to do life together. Mm-hmm. After Bible school, I went to Israel because seminary was a bit of a repeat of Bible school. At least my dad told me that. And I talked to a Bible school teacher. She talked about Israel, and I went there. That was one of those moments in life where I really felt clearly directed. It was very clear. I didn't hear a voice. There was no vision, but it was like really excitement, joy. When I heard about the option of this, joy came up in me, and I followed the joy, went to Israel, and earned a master's there. It was a fabulous year. So that was the next step, was just do that.
Mm-hmm. And then after you graduated from there?
Yeah, from there, then I was appointed to a church in Medicine Hat.
Okay.
And I started out as the associate pastor in the Hillcrest Church there. Mm-hmm. And I served for 12 years, and then the senior pastor retired, and then I served another 10 as the senior leader of the church there.
So you were in that church for 22 years.
That's right.
And from what I understand, that church became it did very well, from what I understand.
It was a fabulous time. Yeah, we started about 200 and ended when I was done about 1,200. So we did the whole journey of learning how to add staff and programs and build new buildings and all the stuff you've done here, Dave. I've heard your story a bit, how you started, and it's a journey, but it's a fun journey when you have the sense of momentum and blessing in it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did for those 22 years.
Okay, so here you are. You're living part of your dream. You're in Medicine Hat. Your big dream is to help people. A part of it is teaching and leadership. And then all of a sudden, you had mentioned that one day, and I don't know if it happened in a day, but one day you came to a place in your life and in your ministry where you said, I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but what am I doing here? Or how exactly did that work?
Well, what happened was 18 years into those 22, I remember praying to God and saying, Lord, it's been great serving you, but I'm tired. I've been pushing hard for 18 years and raising a young family and learning all about leadership and ministry. And I had seen some people burn out. And I'd heard about people burning out. And I said, I don't want to go there. So I said, Lord, I'd rather have a timeout than a burnout. And I lifted this prayer to God and said, Lord, would you give me a year out so I can just take in and be refreshed and then go on? That was my prayer. And then a few months later, a good friend came by, took me for lunch, and he asked me a penetrating question. He said, Dan, where are you at? What's going on in your heart? Well, I just told him exactly this. And he said, I know exactly where you need to be. He said, I'll write the letter and help you get in. And I was invited to participate in a doctor of ministry program in a seminary in the States. And my wife and my kids and I went down there for a year and had a fabulous year learning all about leadership all across North America.
Okay, so here you are, 22 years into the ministry, leading a successful church, but one day you wake up and you say, wow, I'm tired and I need to do something a little bit different for a season. And so you go down to the seminary and now you're becoming a student.
Yes.
Rather than teaching, you're being taught.
Yes, it was wonderful. I had been giving out a lot. And as you know, Dave, in ministry and in any leadership position, even in business, you are giving out. You're giving a lot of energy out. You are giving vision. You're directing the path where we're going to go. That all takes effort and energy. When you do that consistently over the years, somewhere around midlife, your body begins to tell you, you can't keep that up, buddy. You got to shift. And the signal that's given is you're tired. And it's a tiredness that doesn't go away with a good night's rest.
Right.
And when that hit, there's this sense of, okay, I need to change something here. And so you begin to wonder about this. And that's exactly what happened. Being in ministry is great, wonderful. I loved it. That was my vision. My dream was to do that, and God gave me the joy of doing that. But then after those 18, 20 years, it was like, okay, what's the next piece look like? Because it can't be what the first half has been. I can't keep that up. Something has to shift. And I was into this quandary or this wondering time of thinking, well, then what is the next piece? What does it look like? What should be?
Okay. What is the next piece? That is an awesome statement because, you might be here this morning thinking, wow, the puzzle, as far as I know, it's been filled out as far as I can see, and I feel like there is a next piece. And what is that next piece? And so you went down to seminary for a year, and when you came back, there was a change in you, right?
The change in me came because of having to do what's called a dissertation. That's a major study. You have to pick a subject that is very important. And so what I looked at was, how does transformation happen in people? So I looked at leadership training programs all over North America and had a panel of experts help me pick the best leadership training programs, and I cherry-picked the best ideas out of them all and formed CREST. The CREST program. That's what I do now. Now, what happened was that this gave a vision for developing leaders in a new way of doing things. Went back to the church, told the staff there that I was excited about this vision that we could maybe help, way beyond our local church. And it was interesting, the response. They said, we cannot imagine doing one more thing. We are so busy at this church. No, we can't do that.
So they didn't all go raw.
No, here's my wonderful dream, and they didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I was, oh my goodness, that was a bit of like, I thought we was going to do it right there.
So how did that make you feel when you came back full of energy, new passion, a full tank, and you said, this is the next chapter for us, and they looked at you like you had three heads?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
It confused me for a minute there, because I had full intentions of doing it right there. And it made me pause. So I continued doing my ministry and my responsibilities there, but my dream was on hold for a bit. And I remember praying, Lord, you put this in me. I have this great vision to do this. So where is that going to be? And I didn't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
I was in pause mode.
Mm-hmm. And how long did you stay in that mode, that pause mode?
Well, I was pausing, but at the same time I was still looking and talking to people and asking around, and somebody said, well, Dan, you should talk to the president of the Rocky Mountain College Bible College in Calgary. He's got an idea and a vision for a new way of doing things. So I actually made a trip and came up and talked to him and found out, yeah, he was looking for something. And what he described matched what I just studied. And I told him what I just studied, and he said, well, would you like to come and do a pilot project? Just try it here. And I said, yeah, I really would like to do that. And I felt joy again. Remember I mentioned in Israel, joy came up when I heard this. Joy surged again, excitement surged, and I knew, follow the joy.
Okay. So let's just camp on that for a little bit. Follow the joy, and we're going to discuss a little bit further into this. But, some of us are sitting here wondering, well, how do I know what my dream is? How do I pursue a dream? Well, one key is follow the joy.
Yeah, like what does give you joy or make you excited? That's one indicator that there's something for you.
Right.
But then there's another one.
Right. This is the other side.
The other side is you can be discontent about something. You could be upset about something. I noticed in the street video that one gal said her dream was to create a center for people who had been abused by human trafficking. Mm-hmm. That was upsetting her. Mm-hmm. And that upset or that discontent can actually be a call. And it'd be interesting to see how God connects with that gal, and because that's right in line with what God's heart is too. And so it'd be fascinating if we ever were to see her in a few years to see how God intersected with her and actually she became aware that this was actually God's dream in her heart, not hers. Mm-hmm. So the holy discontent is another one. Now that's different than just being discontent. I've met some people who just always think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. Mm-hmm. And they keep jumping fences and they find out it's not greener. In fact, it was pretty good back there. So they're looking for the next one and they're just jumping fences all through life. That's not holy discontent. Right. That's just discontent.
Right.
So we're talking about a holy discontent, and another factor is joy. Mm-hmm. Those seem to be two major emotions that could be indicators that there's a dream that God's stirring in you.
Okay, so two fuel sources is the way I say it. When it comes to empowering us to live our dreams, one, of course, is joy. We follow the joy. Of course, the other fuel source is discontentment. Now, none of us love to live with discontentment. And so I find that what can happen is some people, what they do to try and minimize the sense of discontentment is you can medicate your discontent. You can numb yourself from your discontent. You can just keep busy doing what you know you have to do, but you're not necessarily called to do. And so somehow we have to get to a place where we can embrace our discontent, holy discontent, and allow it to birth us into something new.
Yeah. So just because it feels negative or feels bad doesn't mean it is bad. Mm-hmm. It could very well be God's prompting. Right. Because most of us don't change without some level of pain or discontent. Mm-hmm. And so God allows that in there to move us on, because maybe it's like, okay, you've done this piece, now I've got a new chapter for you. Mm-hmm. And in some ways for me, it was a really deep tiredness, and then a time of being able to really think. And then that fresh vision came to keep on going.
Yeah. So here you are, you're saying goodbye to your church after 22 years of ministry, and you moved here to Calgary, and you served with the Bible school here for how long?
Well, I was only there for 3 years, because at the end of 3 years, the president said, now, Dan, it's time that you just become an independent ministry. He had said all along, this is a good birthing place, and now it's time to go. And I wasn't ready for that. Like, that felt a little bit early. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the finances in place. I didn't have a lot of momentum yet. And I was like, oh boy, this is coming quick. And I remember the image that came to mind was, I'm a little baby bird and I'm getting booted out of the nest, and I'm just going fluttering down to the ground. And I can't even fly yet, but I'm already booted out of the nest. So here I am, late 40s, feeling like a little bird. And I'm barely kind of ready for this, but It's like, ready or not, here we go, and boot, out I was gone.
Okay, and so one step leads to another step, leads to another step, and then finally you're at a place where, this is a bigger step because, he said that, we think you should become independent, and that's great. Independent means you're your own boss, but it also means you sign your own paycheck.
Exactly.
And so you were on your own with this Crest material.
Yeah.
And so what did you do?
Well, I prayed a lot. Because I had come from a team environment. Hillcrest Church was a wonderful team environment, 8 pastors and all the support pastors, and that there's a momentum and there's a power in a good team. And then at Rocky, of course, there's the institution that's backing you, and there's a team happening there. But when you go independent, it's now, I'm doing this by myself, and I'm not used to this. So there was some real angst that came up about that. So I went to prayer, and I had to really be sure that God really did want me to do this. And in my praying, I did feel that affirmation that I should continue. So it's just like take a deep breath and just start out doing it and begin. I had some students, and so I was going along, and I just continued doing it.
Okay, so you at that particular time, because it was the biggest step you've ever taken, you encountered some real fear and some doubts. And so how did you handle those as they came your way? Because I'm sure that some of us sitting here this morning, we might be at that place. We might be saying, my career is here, but I want to be over there. But to get there, there's going to be a big step, fear and doubt. Or maybe God is calling me to start my own business and become independent and sign my own paychecks. And there's a lot of fear and doubt. And so some of the fear that you were feeling, maybe share a little bit of that and how you overcame that.
Well, fear and doubt will make you introspect. And so I went into some really deep thinking and looking at things. And here I've been teaching about faith for 22 years. And then there comes a point of experiencing a deeper level of faith. And I went back to the scriptures again, and it says, faith is the conviction of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, this is a different level. I am actually, I am somewhere where I don't actually see how it's going to be. But I sure have a conviction and a hope in me. And realized, okay, there is a risk here. There's a stepping out that does require believing that God is in this. And that He is going to actually take care of me. And that's a whole nother level of faith that I actually had to experience myself. And so there's take a breath. And put your hand in with God and just begin the step. Take the next step, whatever it was. So it actually made me experientially go a lot deeper in my own understanding of God and how He works with people through faith.
Okay, so, fear and doubt, as terrible of emotions as they are, they can be a benefit because, as you said, they cause us to go back and analyze.
That's right.
And look a little bit closer at our dream.
Yeah.
And that can be a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are called by God to take risks, but we're called to take calculated risks.
Yeah, now that's an important one. Because everybody that does a dream had to take a risk. But I have seen some people that just kind of jump out of, they say, God told me, and off they jump.
They just jump out of the airplane.
And they crash. Well, yeah, splat. And it's like, okay, then what happened? Where was God in all that? So when I look back on my life, the mistakes that I've made were usually because I didn't talk to godly people enough. I didn't get enough godly counsel. The Bible is very clear that we are not to be doing life solo.
Right.
We are to do it in community or with other people. And so there is the safety in a multitude of counselors piece. So if you're going to be thinking about taking a step and taking a risk, don't just go out there and do it by yourself. Talk to some people who have experience, and a number of them. Don't just go to the ones you think are going to agree with you. Just talk to a number of people, and if you get a group of them, and then most of them are kind of giving you some green lights and some advice, okay, now you can take a calculated risk. Right. Because you've got some counsel about that.
Yeah. So a calculated risk. There's some discernment there, but there's also an element of risk involved. And I think when it comes to pursuing our dreams, there's always going to be an element of risk. Now, I know a mistake that some of us make, it's called paralysis of analysis.
Yes, right.
Where you just keep analyzing, and before you know it, you're just so frozen that you don't move.
And that points out to the fact that you can't get rid of all risk. When you're in paralysis of analysis, you're trying to get rid of all risk.
That's a good point.
You can't get rid of all risk. Yeah. There comes a point where there's enough evidence there and there's enough advice. You just need to step out and do it and watch if God shows up or not. Mm-hmm. And that's where the faith piece comes in, because it's amazing how all of a sudden you do see things happening that weren't in your plan. And it's a great encouragement that you're not alone. God is in this. Mm-hmm. Now, it hasn't been an easy journey. I have found that this faith journey that I've been on has required more faith of me and more willing and more diligence on my part than I had before. So it's not a cakewalk. It is a journey into character and into depth and into joy.
Right. And so as you pursued, now you're independent. You're signing your own paychecks, and you're building a leadership course, right?
Yeah. Put the course together, and now from the alumni, I have partners that are coming on board and helping, and there's more people that want to be a part of this kind of a team, and it's fascinating to see how God evolves it as I'm going along.
Right, and now you've been running Crest for how long?
10 years now.
Yeah, and that's taking place in what provinces?
Well, I do it here in Alberta, and also, if there's enough students, in BC and in Ontario. Mm-hmm. So I do it across Canada.
So for 10 years, you've been living, I guess, what you might call the second chapter of your dream.
That's right. Yeah, so my dream morphed a bit from being the pastor of a growing, healthy church, which was a great dream I did in the first half, and now it's morphed to this developing Christian leaders. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been doing for 10 years now, and I love doing this dream. I get such joy when I get to go out to King's Fold with you and others and actually get to be there and do that. And boy, I just feel the joy of the Lord in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I'm going to let you share a little bit about Crest when we close off. But one question I have is, do you believe that everybody has a God-given dream? That's one question I'd like to ask.
Great question. I'm going to nuance that a little bit. I'm going to start back before the dream to say I am convinced everybody has a purpose. God has designed purpose into us as human beings. We instinctively want it. Did you notice in all the street videos, they all wanted to give something. Mm-hmm. Even if it's like, we want to give really cool skateboards to people and do it through business. And then there's the gal that wanted to have the center. And then there's someone else who just wants to share happiness. Every one of them wanted to give something. That is the DNA of God in us. That's part of the image of God that's stamped on everybody, whether we know God personally yet or not. There is this innate desire to want to give. So that from that purpose, there has to come a more of a specific thing. Well, then how are you going to give? Exactly what are you going to give? And that's the journey of finding out from the gifting and the experience that we've gone through. And where could you actually express that God-given DNA? That's the dream. Mm-hmm. That's the dream piece. And I do believe God has a dream journey for everybody. We are all made for purpose, and He intends that we are to fulfill that purpose. And there will be joy in doing that. So I do believe, in the end, God has a dream journey for everybody.
Okay, so all of us have been given a heavenly dream journey. Of course, that's sometimes a pretty ambiguous thing. I mean, wow, it just doesn't come with a large amount of clarity sometimes, many times. So you've shared a few things about how you might define and pursue your dream. One is the fuel of joy.
Yep.
The other is the fuel of discontent. That's a dream fuel. Yep. What are some other things you might want to
then
share?
I would say that the third one that comes out of that is willingness to do the next thing.
Okay.
And so an image comes to mind. When I grew up in India, we didn't have the street lamps out, and it was dark. When it got dark, it was dark. And we had these pressure lanterns that you would pump up, and you light them, and then you could hold it, and you could see about 3 steps ahead of you. And I noticed that when in the middle of the dark, if I took the 2 steps I could see in the light, then the next 2 steps showed up.
Okay.
But if I wanted to have a light clear home, I would have been stuck.
Wouldn't went anywhere.
I wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So my next advice is, whatever God has shown you as the next thing, just be faithful to do the next thing. Because why should He show you 10 steps if you won't take the first one?
Okay, that's really good. If I had a pen, I'd be writing that one down. Right? The next step. Because why would God show you 10 steps ahead if you're not willing to take the one that's in front of you?
Yeah.
And so, it might be good for us just to think about that in our own lives. What is the next step for me? And it might not seem all that great or grand or romantic, but that next step leads us to the next step, which leads us to the next step, and, which eventually leads us into pursuing and fulfilling our dream.
And I think that's been my life experience, because when I was in my early 20s starting out in ministry, I did not have a vision for Crest. That wasn't my dream. But as I walked in obedience to God, it turned out that He gave me this dream. Mm-hmm. And so here I am living a dream that I didn't even know when I was in my 20s.
Right.
But I have such joy in doing it now at this stage of my life. And I'm finding that God actually gave me a dream, kind of a morphing dream as I went along. And as I kept obeying, I was able to just follow the dream journey. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing's a dream journey.
The whole thing, yes. So, we're going to wrap it up in a bit, but why don't you share a little bit about Crest? Now, I've been part of the Crest leadership program, as I said, for a year now, if I get my homework done. And I have another year, actually, to fulfill. I mean, I've really enjoyed it myself. It's just for me, it's 3 days, 3.5 days where you can come and just be saturated in some great material. And it's not just for pastors, of course, because in the cohort and the way the Crest works is you have a group of people whom you go through together with, and they call it a cohort. And in our cohort, there are other pastors, but there's business people and quite a variety. So why don't you just share a little bit about what Crest really is?
Well, the research I did about how God works with us over our lifetime and develops us was that most people will start well and they'll be developing along, and then somewhere around midlife, which is like, maybe mid-30s to mid-40s, somewhere in there, we all will get some kind of signal. For me, the signal was, I'm tired, and I want to take in. Others, it'll be a restlessness, like, okay, been here, done this.
Right, and that's when some people go out and buy red sports cars.
That's right. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
They misinterpret the
angst of it all.
Angst, there you go.
They go back to the teenage years. That's what they did when they were teenagers, and they kind of found something, and now they do it again. That's not a good idea at midlife.
Okay, so, and I know we don't want to take a lot of time, but they feel the discontent. So rather than living in it and allowing it to push them forward, they actually go backward.
That's right. Yeah. You end up doing juvenile things, and it's very painful and hurtful to people around you.
Yeah.
That's what a midlife crisis is. So we say, don't do a midlife crisis. Come and do a midlife process. That's what we do at Crest. Mm-hmm. So we invite people to come, and one of the things in midlife is you're really busy. Well, you need time out to think deeply, and that's why we ask you to leave and go out for 3 days and get immersed. And we give you some space. The research says only 1 out of 4 will know how to go on and actually flourish in the second half. The majority will flatline.
1 out of 4?
1 out of 4 knows how to. The majority will flatline, and some will actually flounder. So we offer a journey to get to flourishing. And that's what Crest is about. And it's not a quick fix. It's not a one-off seminar. It's a journey. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's a 2-year journey. Mm-hmm. And then we invite people to do that, and you find you get a clarity and a clarification of who you are and what your purpose and where you're going in life, and then you've got a map to keep rolling.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. Amen. And so, you might be at that midlife place in your life right now, and that's 35 to 50, isn't it?
Actually, we have people in their 60s that are in Crest, because you know what? If you are an average Canadian, you're going to live till 80.
Right.
You've got 20 years of a journey after 60.
Right.
You're not done. You've got 20 years to go.
Right. Yeah, and so 500 years ago, the average lifespan was what, 40 years old?
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, you get midlife and you die.
Yeah, midlife and you die. But because of the blessing of God and technological advances and better living, we get to experience a whole new chapter.
That's right.
We get to midlife, and we can live. The second expanding part of our dream.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to have this opportunity because many people in the world don't have the option. We are blessed in this country.
Yes.
To have that option at midlife, to actually think about what you want to do for the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a stewardship issue too then. We got to make sure we steward that well because we will answer before God to say, what did you do with the life I gave you?
Okay, so that's a good point. That's a stewardship issue, right? Because our lives are not our own, been given to us by God, and we will be responsible for the life that we've been given, whether it's short or long.
That's right.
So I love that. That's a stewardship issue. Wow. Well, now you have a table set up in the foyer.
Yes.
And so if any of you are interested in Crest, Dan's going to be there. Any questions you might have. Now you mentioned you also have a blog, right?
Yes. If you're interested in this subject, we can invite you to sign up for our blog, and that is every 2 weeks you'll get a short email. We're not going to, flood your email box.
Yeah, and I get these emails, and they are very helpful.
It'll help you
very
with life
short
and
articles.
That's right. Life and leadership, and we are starting a new cohort here in the Calgary area in October, and we'd love to have anybody that feels this midlife stirring. Now I want to talk with you.
Yeah, midlife stirring. You want to steward it and not go backwards, right?
That's right.
And not flatline and not go down. So anyway, Dan will be available at the end of the service for any questions you might have. But how many have enjoyed our time together?
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, and so I just thought it would be wonderful after we've taught a lot about dreaming. I just thought it would be great if we could hear a bit of a dream story. So I thought that's, I really appreciate you taking the time and being with us.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is, why don't we stand, and I would like to pray for Dan and for Crest and for his family. And so why don't we extend our hands and let's just have a word of prayer. Father, I thank you. I thank you for Dan. I thank you for the dreams that you have placed within his heart. And Father, I thank you that right from the very beginning, the dream was just to help people and to teach them and to draw them closer to you. And Lord, that dream has never died. It's gotten deeper, wider, more intense than ever. And Father, I pray a blessing upon Dan and Ann and the Crest team. I pray that you would continue to open doors of blessing. Father, that you would use Dan and this course, Father, to help so many who are in this season of their life. And so may you continue to lead and guide him as he lives his dream. And Father, for all of us, we stand here today, we think about some of these things. The fuel of joy, the fuel of discontent, the practicality of taking the next step. Lord, make that clearer to us. And Lord, give us the courage to do what you've called us to do. And Lord, I just pray that over each one. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah.